Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the final fancy VFR airspace, or VFR transition, or I guess VFR fanciness, and that is going to be the VFR Transition Route. Now this one's different than the other two that we saw. We saw the flybys, we also saw the fly-throughs essentially over in San Diego. The reason this one's unique is because it requires air traffic control to safely get through. Now this is basically, okay, you really have to get through my Bravo airspace, here's where I want you to go. So what do these look like? So let's go ahead and pop over to a quick little chart here. This is up in Phoenix. This is Phoenix Sky Harbor. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be flying from this one, the AK Chin region, which is Alpha 39. I believe this one is under the name. I forget what it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to find this lovely magenta arrow chilling right here. Now, this magenta arrow is going to be how we get through this. Now, one thing worth noting here is the lower part here is 9,000 to 5,000. And when we cross through, we're going to be given some sort of instructions it's going to give us. Now, the different altitudes they give us are depending on things like, are we going north, are we going south? And they try to keep at least 1,000 feet between us, kind of a thing like that. On this particular transition route, typically it's 3,500 to 5,500, depending on the situation. We will fly it at 5,500 just because it's easy for us. So here's how this works. We're going to take off from here. We're going to contact Phoenix Approach, and we're going to say we would like the transition route. Our destination is going to be Phoenix Deer Valley, which is up here in the north. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and select that real quick. We'll go ahead and select this one real quick. Again, we're keeping it super simple today, but that's actually backwards. That's okay, though. There we go, all fixed. So what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to call them before we get there. Again, keep in mind we have to have our ADS-B working here and mode C and all that other stuff. And what they're going to do is they're going to send us basically to the Foothills Golf Course right here. I'm just going to mark this one. Afterwards, what they're going to do is they're going to say proceed. In the real world, they'll tell us to basically head towards the east side of the airport, which is going to look like that. And then they're going to go ahead and redirect us to where Fiesta Wow Peak is right here. And it actually has its own a waypoint identifier there for those of you who are trying to find it. See the backpack, you can actually see there. So basically, we're following these little magenta arrows, and you're going to see these magenta arrows in pretty much every class Bravo airspace that you fly through. By the way, we're on the fly chart here. This is, if you go to actually the regular world VFR, you're not going to see that transition. You do have to actually use a proper TAC chart, a proper fly chart to do this. So let's go ahead and set us up. So here we are, we're in the Cirrus. Everything is looking pretty good here. Nothing too crazy to report at this particular time. We're going to take off. We're going to start heading towards Phoenix Sky Harbor. And like I say, when we cross that point, we're going to go ahead and transfer over so that we can set that up. All right, let's do it to it. Full power. Yeah, it's a Cirrus. So full power is it's enough. It's enough. These things are much bigger planes than look. You know, when I'm sitting up here high in the sea, I'm like, oh, this is a little tiny plane. This is not a little plane. This is not quite a Bonanza size, but it is, like I said, it is not a little tiny plane. Yep, force of habit. I tried to raise the landing gear. Yep, no retractable landing gears on this one. That's okay, though. All right, let's go do the Cirrus pilot thing here, and go ahead and take an aggressive right turn, and completely ignore that you're supposed to be going at a specific position, and we're just gonna make ourselves get right on our way. Do a nice steep turn right out of the traffic pattern, right across the incoming traffic. Oh yeah, and now we're talking fancy pilot here. And there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pop up to our altitude. In the real world, this is what we call it Phoenix Approach. We basically say we just took off from Alpha 39, or we're 2 miles to the northwest, requesting Bravo transition to Kilo Delta Victor Tango. And what they would do is they'd then go ahead and say, proceed direct, or head this heading, or something along those lines. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and kind of concentrate on pretend, like I like to say. And we're just going to make our way up to the different waypoints that are going to go us through. So at this time, we have not entered the airspace of Phoenix. We're incredibly close to it. In the lower bounds of the airspace at this point are 6,000 feet. So, of course, even though we have not entered that airspace, it's usually highly recommended that we make some sort of effort to, contact them way before we have to actually need, okay, we can pull this nose up quite a bit higher on a Cirrus. We definitely want to contact them in advance to sort of let them know that we're coming. Like I said, this is the only one of these VFR transitions that we require air traffic control for. Some of them, by the way, will ask you to go ahead and use some sort of a traffic where you basically have a local frequency, and you're supposed to self-announce when you cross specific points on it. The big one that everybody thinks of with that one is in the upper part of the New England, United States. You've got New York City. There's this little Hudson Special Visual Flight Rules corridor. Those are pretty cool, but we'll take a look at that one another day because, again, it's another neat thing to try to fly through and transition. For those of you doing this on VATSIM or any other air traffic control situation, keep in mind that you obviously have to do what they ask you to do, and what they'll actually do a lot of times is they'll just make you go direct, which is okay. And again, remember, we're not on instrument flight rules here. We're operating completely based on, traditional VFR, visual flight rules. pull back my mixture just a tiny bit. We don't need to do a lot here. We just need enough to get the power to come back up again. There we go. Nice. There's 3,900 feet. We're going to be touching the lower edge of this in just a second. Keep in mind, in a little propeller plane like this, you have plenty of time to think about what you need to do in order to get yourself safely in here. Where this gets very interesting is what they'll do in the real world is actually give you a specific altitude. They can give you some kind of funky altitudes in a desperate attempt to try to keep you out of the way of stuff that's coming in. For those of you not familiar with the shape of Phoenix, remember Phoenix is going to be an airport that goes east-west like this. So by the fact that we're crossing at it from the center, we're basically bisecting the airport itself, we don't have to worry that much about the stuff that's coming in because it's not going to be at an altitude where it could actually affect us. So we're going to be hitting the outer point too. Like I said, I just want to get a little bit, tiny bit higher here. In that mixture just a wee bit. I think we went too far. There we go. Nice. And again, everything is completely visual at this point. We would normally, like I said, you'd want to talk to air traffic control pretty much right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap on the automatic pilot, and I'm going to go ahead and get us ready for all the fun stuff that's about to come in a second. Come down here, mash the nav button. This whole thing is going to tip over to the left, and now it's going to start taking us on nav. Again, what they'll do is they will typically vector you depending on what the actual scenario is that they needed that particular day. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. There we go, and I will skip the trip, don't worry. So again, our initial point that we're actually going to be interested in is going to be right here where my mouse is. It's going to be kind of this spot right here. That is where that golf course is. Remember, we're going to be crossing it to the edge of that golf course. And what I'll do real quickly is go ahead and bring this back up so you can see it. So again, we're propping up here, and there's going to be that golf course, which is our starting point. We are just about right where my mouse is. We're actually a little bit on the low side. And you can see that there's some warnings here about traffic that's going to be flying above our heads. Again, this traffic is controlled. We're not necessarily controlled until we do go ahead and contact them. Notice, by the way, they give us a DME arc here in case we don't have a GPS or something that can kind of provide us with that useful information. So let's go get up to, mission failed. So in the real world, of course, we just violated their airspace in about 2 seconds here. So that's what happens when you try to explain something rather than paying attention to where you're actually flying. So let's go ahead and go back down to 5,500 feet. We'll do vertical speed. We're just going to call this getting on the step. So in the real world, we actually were safe there. I was able to get underneath the airspace before we went smacking into it. Because remember, it's 6,000 feet. Look at that. Safe. But that could have been pretty bad for us. So I'll kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so now looking out the window here, again, I'm switching over to a kind of visual method of approaching these sort of things. We can see we've got the whole mess out here. You can see the big mountain range and everything like that. You do want to have some altitude underneath you in order to kind of protect you from the stuff that, obviously, if you have an engine out or something, you want to have plenty of room to operate here. So we're going to slow down just a teeny tiny bit. Like I said, we're doing fine so far. And we're trying to make our way over to where that golf course is. So let me go grab that golf course again so you can see it. So again, we're going to be passing by this one right here. We're going to go right through this line. We've just passed this line. We're basically right here right now, and there's actually a highway that we can follow. So if I actually stick my head up just a teeny tiny bit, see this little highway right here? This would be the highway that we're going to follow, and you can also see, if you look really carefully, where the two highways kind of merge right here and kind of come in this way. Taking a look here, you can see where the two highways merge and come in this way. Notice when we do this, we're actually going to be crossing, I wish I had better binoculars. We're basically going to be crossing right here, and again, there's theoretically a golf course there that we can identify. That's interesting. Cool. And again, we're going to basically scoot right up here. And at this point, air traffic control would have control of us, even though we haven't technically passed into their zone. If you take a look, we're not going to be passing into that until we basically cross this line right here. And that's going to get us into it. All right, keeping a close eye here. Keeping a close eye. We'll speed up time just a teeny bit. And that looks pretty good. And right there. So at this point, what they're going to do is they'd most likely... there it is. See the golf course? So what they're going to do at this point in the real world is they'd probably order us to go ahead and take a specific heading. Their goal is to get us to fly over the end of the runway. Do you see the airport right here? They want us to fly over here. This is going to be our start point where the golf course is, and they're going to have us angle right into this part of the airport itself. So what I'll do is I'll wait until this wind settles a little bit, because this wind is interesting today, to say the least. It always is. Like, it's never normal. It's always windy. There we go, right there. So now we're going to go ahead and play the can you identify which heading you need to use in order to safely transition this airspace game. So let's go ahead and come down here and pop the heading hold. And we're just going to assume that they've asked us to fly over the east end of the runway. Remember, north, west, east, south. So we're just going to fly through this little transition route. Now remember, we're completely under air traffic control. We're doing what they asked us to do very nicely. You know, we're complying with altitude requests. So they'd either give us 35 or 5,500 feet, depending on the situation. And again, the reason people always freak out, say, why would you fly over the airport? That seems dangerous. We don't have to worry about that because of the fact, like I mentioned earlier, all the aircraft are much, much higher than us, or they're much, much lower than us. So we're not actually going to go smacking into them. So right now we should be passing over. There it is. Told you. Interesting golf course, actually. It kind of goes around where the people live, but that's all right. So what we're going to do now is we're now going to fly over the east end of the runway. I'll go ahead and speed up time a little teeny tiny bit here. Yeah, that's not really the east end, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So we're going to proceed right over the top of this. If you ever poke online and want to watch people fly this VFR transition route, you will always see everybody takes the exact same photograph. What they do is they stick their head out the window and go right here because, like, what cool of a view is this? And actually, I'm going to use that as my picture for my little thing here. I like this. Cool. So this is the center of the VFR transition route. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back over to that particular position that's going to finish us off here. So going back to my little notes here, I'm going to pop this one open so everybody can see it. You can see that we're going to be now sneaking over into the this particular VPEC. Then we're going to pop over to Phoenix. So maybe actually press the navigation hold button again. One thing I would actually do here, this would make a lot more sense if I press this. Direct enter. And this should take us right back on the correct angle that we need to go ahead and get ourselves back. And again, we're basically going to be whacking over the top of this really, really steep peak, and that should get us right on target as far as where we need to be. Actually, this is too far to the east here, or too far to the west, rather. We should be coming right over the tippy top of this guy right here. But you can already see how, again, air traffic control will be the ones who would be direct controlling. Actually, there we go. There we go. Nice. Air traffic control will be the ones that basically be telling you what to do. So we'll skip trip a little bit here. I like that button in Grand Theft Auto. It definitely simplifies things for us. And then we'll go ahead and get ready for descent because we're going to be over a destination in a minute. Remember, we're still deep within their airspace. To actually get down here, they have to hand us off to their particular air traffic controllers here. So again, we'd be zipping out of the Bravo. You can see we just passed through that on the bottom right. Now we're going to be entering into the Delta of the folks underneath us. Dive bomb. Actually, I think the term is, I have a very important announcement to make. Cannonball. I'm sure everybody knows that movie. So we're going to do a highly illegal approach here. Again, we're going to enter into a left base for the primary runway here. Again, nothing, not recommended technique here, but again, the purpose was to see the VFR transition route. Just a quick little summary. The big thing with VFR transition routes, which makes them different than everything else we saw today, we've seen, again, these are all different style ones. We've seen VFR corridors. We've also got to see VFR flyways. Not to get the two confused, it's pretty easy to do. This one is a VFR transition route, or a Class B VFR transition route, if you want to get really, really technical about the name of it. And this is an air traffic control system, and again, you'll see them all around the United States for anybody who's doing anything that is involved in here. If you really want to have fun with the people in that sim, try flying Bravo, like scoot right through the Bravo airspace and watch what they do. I've had a couple times where they've asked me to actually fly one of these, and I've also had a lot of times where they just like, whatever. So again, make sure you use what makes sense here. We're going to do a nice highly illegal landing here, but it's a Cirrus, and I'm just renting it today, so I don't feel too bad about it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my left base here, and we're going to do a nice little tactical maneuver here. I don't know about you, but the people on the ground aren't probably appreciating what I'm doing right now. Now, the fun thing is you have 2.5 right there, which is clearly not meant for me. And then we have 2.5 left here, which looks more like an Air Force runway. I kind of like this one better. I'm sure the people on the ground are very, very scared of me, but that's okay. Gotta love slipping the plane. It's not my plane, it's a rental, I swear. There we go. Go ahead and bring the nose back around. I'm going to land nice and flat. And we're here. Look at that. It happens that my gate is right over here. Look at this. We got a high-speed takeoff, taxiway. And it was meant to be. All right, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like I said, you always want to watch out for those funky airspaces. They make things much more interesting as a pilot, especially when air traffic control is involved. But other than that, enjoy.